Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the Democratic presidential nominee, none other than former Vice President Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been in the news a lot this week because the Democratic National Convention has been ongoing each and every day. And in addition, he's been doing a few appearances and press events because of this and because of all that's going on in this sort of news cycle. That's right. The election is coming up pretty soon in November, and the Democrats have officially nominated Joe Biden in a pretty cringy online, not in-person style convention. They're kind of using the excuse of COVID to have this thing with the internet and people are streaming and talking about it. But that's really besides the point today. Today, we're going to talk about a little side story. Recently, Joe Biden did one of his first interviews. He hasn't done an interview in a good long while, and you're never going to guess who he let interview him. That's right. This person is not who you'd expect. You know, people have been asking to talk to Joe Biden. They've been wanting to ask him questions. The press has been chomping at the bit to get a word in with him. But who does Joe Biden decide to talk to after all that, after dodging press conferences for many months? Well, he gets interviewed by none other than rapper/singer and music star Cardi B. Cardi B is pretty much the worst person to conduct this interview to, for a large variety of reasons, which we're about to get into. We're also going to get to the interview soon, too. But first, let's talk about Cardi B a little bit. Cardi B is this former reality show star turned rapper/singer/music performer, and she has a pretty nefarious reputation, to say the least. Let's just start off by saying that she's a former adult worker. She used to work at a strip club, and she even bragged about how back in the day she used to put guys to sleep and steal from them. So she's an admitted criminal, an admitted sort of kind of risque, off-color kind of figure. Nothing wrong with that either. I'm not really trying to bash or like shame anyone that has a certain job or that likes their sexuality or something like that. That's all fine and dandy, but it's certainly interesting that the presidential candidate for the Democrats wants to associate with someone like this, someone who also can barely speak English. She's very, very low IQ. In addition, she also just came out with a new song that we can't even talk about here really without getting censored or demonetized, because she has this new song and it's really, really vile. It talks about a woman's private parts and all kinds of other very, very sexual stuff like that. So Cardi B has a pretty bad reputation as far as that, but she's also popular. She's a big singer in the media and getting a lot of attention as she's an up-and-coming star. So it makes sense that Joe Biden's trying to capitalize on that in a way, but at the same time, it really brings down the level of quality and the respectability of his campaign. And the fact that he does this interview with someone like this is highly questionable too. So let's go ahead and, with that said, let's jump into the video and see what it has to say. This is from an interview they did on the Elle magazine. So let's go ahead and check it out.
How you doing?
Hi, Barry. How are you?
How are you? The name's Joe.
Well, hello there, Joe.
As a matter of fact, why don't you meet my daughter, the love of my life, the life of my love. She's a fan of yours.
Hi, how are you?
This is
How are
Ashley.
you?
Okay, this starting off is pretty awkward. It's also just kind of uncomfortable to watch someone like Cardi B. Like, I don't want to like kind of ad hominem and just talk about appearances, but this is definitely a very interesting look. She's got 6-inch long nails. She's got really, really dyed hair, lots of heavy makeup on. Like, she's got this kind of look. It's a very kind of, I don't know, over the top look. And Biden's trying to communicate with her. It's coming off really cringy. He's saying his daughter really likes her or something. It's just really strange and an odd start.
Good, how you doing?
You know the
I'm
nickname
good,
she
Joe.
gave her father when she was growing up? She'd call me Joey B. So
Yeah.
we may be related or something.
Yep, Cardi B and Joey B. I'm a huge fan. I just
Hello
wanted
there,
to
Joey.
say
How
hi.
you doing? I feel so crazy because I feel like I'm a little bit late. But Biden, let me tell you something. When you have kids my age, like the one my age, 2 years old, your schedule never go as planned. You know what I'm saying?
You're telling me?
went
I got 4 kids, 5 grandkids. Come on. I'm an expert.
Okay, there's another part that's very interesting. Joe Biden actually has 7 grandkids, so that's something a lot of people have been pointing out here. He says he has 5. I don't know why he's getting that wrong. I know he has 7. I don't know if that includes his son who has some illegitimate kids. Like, his son has some pretty bad relationships. He's had a lot of breakups, and he's actually dated his dead brother's former wife and like had a kid with some kind of like mistress, and there's a whole weird story about that. But essentially, Biden got his number of grandkids wrong, and here Cardi is kind of excusing herself for being late. Like, she first said that she's sorry that she's really late. Apparently, they had a time for this interview, and she showed up late. And her excuse is she has a kid. And I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not denying that kids can complicate things, and you got to have take care of the kids first and that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not trying to deny that, but that's also just a common excuse for parents. That's also just a common thing for these kinds of like rappers and musicians and stuff like that. Like, they're always showing up late to everything. Like, they just can't help themselves. They're just always late. And that's just playing into that and showing that they have a lot of excuses. And also, I think it also plays into the fact that, like, she says she can't make it to things on time. She's trying to be this like mother, like single mother thing, but it kind of goes to show that, she's trying to have a career and do these other things, but she can't handle both.
I understand about kids. The most important thing in the world. They come first.
Yes, definitely. Always. My kid come first. Period.
Keep it that way.
So, Joe, I heard you got some questions for me.
Oh, I do have some questions for you. First of all, I want to congratulate you. The cover of I tell you, that's pretty good. That's pretty big time. Number one, doesn't surprise me. You're on the cover. But number two, thanks for your generosity dealing with people who are suffering from COVID. There's so many people who needlessly are in trouble, who are needlessly have died when they did.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Basically, she asked for questions. I thought she was going to interview him. I mean, he's the presidential candidate. He's possibly going to lead the biggest country in the world. I don't know why she thinks she's more important than that. I don't know. This is so crazy. I mean, I understand like Biden's not the president yet, and he's not very important right now. So that is understandable. Like, Cardi B is famous in Hollywood and stuff. Like, I guess that's cool. But she obviously is living in that bubble where she doesn't understand that he's the more important person. She is just some weird rapper chick with a really crazy look. She's like licking her teeth and putting on like a bucket of makeup, like looking like really, really, really scary to me. And she asked Biden for questions. She tries to like act like, oh, she's the star of this thing. And it's so weird. It's such a weird, messed up dichotomy.
Didn't have to if we had taken the precautions we needed to. And thank you. You have a generous heart. You have a generous heart. And what I wanted to know was, tell me what's your main interest in terms of this election?
I have a whole list of things that I want and I wish and I desire for our next president to do for us. But first thing first, let me keep it a buck. I just want Trump out. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like his mouth gets us in trouble so much. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want, like, we're dealing with a pandemic right now, right? And I just want answers. I want to know when this is over. Like,
no one's lying to you, okay? I mean, the Trump administration isn't. The president and the White House aren't lying. I don't get where she's going with this. I don't know why they both try to blame COVID on Trump. It doesn't really make sense. Like, this is a almost natural disaster. This thing was coming no matter what. If Joe Biden was president, do we really think it would have been better? Like, I think that's just really ridiculous to even suggest that. Obviously, Biden doesn't have his stuff together. He could barely conduct an interview or go out in public. So to suggest that he would do better than Trump to handle this situation is absurd. I think they both would have had very similar reactions. It probably would have been worse with Biden, but overall, this is just something that was coming. It's like an earthquake or a tsunami or hurricane. I mean, there's not much you could really do. You could prevent a few things. You might have saved a few hundred people, but you're talking about like minuscule numbers compared to what happened. So that is really, really bad comparison here. And then the other thing I want to note, this is like the first question Biden gives to this chick, Cardi B, which is already interesting. Like we said, like he's supposed to get interviewed. He's supposed to be the big shot on her show, but really it's like she showed up late. She's asking for the questions. She's like being the alpha here, which is just really, really cringe. And it shows how beta these Democrats are, like Biden. They just kind of want to kowtow to everyone and he wants to please everyone. He's like a people pleaser. But the other thing is, the first thing that this chick says, she has this question, like, what do you want out of this election? What are you looking for? And all she says is she wants Trump out. Like, she hasn't listed any kind of thing that she wants. She hasn't talked about any policies or any kinds of problems. She made up something about Trump dealing with COVID wrong and lying that was just unproven and not true. So, I mean, that just goes to show these kinds of people, they're just so kind of brainwashed by the news and the media. They don't care about the actual issues. They just want Trump out. Like, they've been lied to by the media. That's the truth. That's who she's actually been lied to.
I want to go back to my job. I want to be able to go outside. I want to be able not to feel like I'm trapped in my home. But I don't want somebody to lie to me and tell me that it's okay to go outside. It's okay not to wear a mask, that everything is going to be okay. No, I want like a timeline of when things are going to get better. I want a president to tell me what are the steps for us to get better besides, taking precautions like with our masks. And
Trump says to wear a mask. Trump says to go outside in safe situations, but he's not ignoring the problem. Like, I don't know. This chick, as you're going to see as it goes on, she wants a lot from her government. She wants to be like handheld. Like, she really can't figure this stuff out on her own. So she needs someone to tell her. And apparently she's looking to the government, but she doesn't trust Trump. So she needs someone like else in the government. Like, I don't know why she would trust Biden more because he's a Democrat. Like, I don't really get that kind of difference. Like, I know that they're biased and political here, but this whole relation to the virus thing, it's just a false premise. It doesn't make sense. It's not related to this Trump versus Biden question. Like, we're not talking about Republican versus Democratic policies. We're talking about a virus that came from another country and they're blaming it on Trump. Like, without even mentioning the fact that China started the virus and then made it worse and lied about it and didn't get people properly prepared. So that's just absurd.
Quarantining. I need somebody to tell me, like, this is going to be over when we find this cure. This is why it's taking so long. This is why other countries are doing better than ours when it comes to this pandemic. I need somebody to tell me the truth, the hardcore truth. And also, I, of course, want free Medicare. And this is why it's important to have free Medicare, because look what's happening right now. You see why we should have been have free Medicare for a long time. I, of course, think that we need a free college education. That's second. And I want Black people to stop getting killed. And
what? Oh my God, this is so absurd. This is insane. She starts off with asking for two big free things, free healthcare and free college, which aren't really free at all. I mean, who's paying for that? Someone has to pay for that. That's just going to be paid for by your taxes. So I don't get this idea of free healthcare, free college education. I mean, even the better, more well-spoken Democrats would call it government funded or universal or some kind of other weasel word, but to call it free is just lying. I mean, it's just misrepresenting it on purpose. Or, I mean, I think what's more likely happening here is she doesn't understand. I mean, this is not a very smart person. You could tell by the way she acts and talks. Like, she says she wants a lot from the president. She basically wants a president that's like her daddy, like her husband or dad or father. She needs like someone to guide her through life because she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, she doesn't know how to handle this crisis. She doesn't know how to get health care or education or anything like that. So she needs this kind of nanny state. And this is the kind of person that the Democrats attract. They need people that are dependent on the government to give them everything. That way they could control them and keep them under their thumb. And yeah, okay. So free healthcare isn't free. Free college isn't free. And then the next thing is she just says she wants Black people to stop getting killed. What does that even mean? What are you talking about, lady? Like, Black people are not just getting killed willy-nilly in this country, especially not by cops, because I think that's the implication here, is that cops are killing Black people for no reason, which never happens, like almost never happens. There's been like 7 people that were Black and unarmed and killed by cops, and those are not just necessarily for sure for no reason. Like, there's probably stipulations and circumstances with each of those cases. But regardless, we're talking about 7 out of 330 million people. We're talking about like around, I don't know, like 30 million Black people in the country, like probably more. And 7 of them have died. Like, that's not a problem. Like, you're talking about people that are interacting with cops more than everyone else. We're talking about people that commit more crimes and resist arrest and do lots of bad things. Like, I'm not saying all, not all, but the records are there. And the real truth is this is a non-problem. And this is just someone that's low IQ, like having Black Lives Matter in the back of their head, this kind of brainwash stuff. And Joe Biden is just going along with it. He's just like, yeah, let's get Cardi B. I'm going to get some votes from this. I'm going to get the black vote or whatever. I don't even know if she's black. Like, I can't really tell, but I'm guessing maybe half black. And yeah, it's just, that just wraps this interview up. It's pretty absurd, pretty silly, and it just goes to show this is the kind of people that Joe will take an interview from. He won't go interview with Chris Wallace or someone, an actual reporter who might ask an interesting question. No, he's just going to interview with Cardi B, who says she wants a bunch of free stuff and she thinks black people are dying when they're not. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get things shared, and until next time, have a great day.